Hey, this is Trey Kay, host of West Virginia Public Broadcasting's podcast, Us and Them. 2 days after the 2024 presidential election, we brought together the Us and Them dinner party. Now, since the run-up of the 2020 election, we've gathered together 8 West Virginians, 4 conservative and 4 liberal, diverse in age, gender, and race, to gather together for a meal and talk about the issues that divide us. This year's gathering was our most honest and emotionally charged to date. Tensions ran high at the table, mirroring the atmosphere in households across the country. The emotions were still raw from the election, and we asked our guests to speak their minds. Lexi, you've been trying to get in here, so I'd really like to hear what you have to say.
Before we kind of started talking about education policies, I was thinking about how the last time I was here, and really up until this point, I've always thought that there were, kind of like Michael was talking about, 2 divisions in the Republican Party. There were Trump supporters, and there were Republicans, and I've truly have felt that. I've always, since 2016, I've always thought that. And like in this moment, as of Tuesday, I've recognized that that's not real, and that hurts, and that's scary, and I've really been reflecting a lot on myself, and I'm thinking like, wow, I'm the minority. Do people not think like me? Are my ideas crazy? When did I get lost? What's going on? How did this grouping come to be? Are they forming this type of coalition because they just want that power, or is this truly the state of America? And I was talking to my roommate too, and we're talking all the way back 2018 to the beginning of 2016. Why were we more progressive then than we are now? What's going on? Why are we afraid about losing rights? Why is this a conversation that we still have to have? Why am I worried? Why did my mom have to tell me that I might become the next female president, but now I'm gonna have to tell my kids that? Like, what? I just don't understand what's happening, where all this hate is coming from, how this is spewing into one. I just can't wrap my head around it.
But I want to make sure I'm clear. Before you felt like there was kind of what we've talked about is the Republican Party as it was, and then there's kind of the MAGA wing.
The Republican Party that you were referring to, the true Republican Party, the way that I grew up until now viewing the Republican Party, versus this more conspiracy hoax party. Like, to me, Trump is not a real Republican, and I feel like calling him that is a slap in the face to a lot of Republicans. Like, I've never really viewed him as that, and I thought that a lot of us as a country really didn't view him as that. But looking at the results of the election, I feel like this is what people are identifying with. And what does this mean moving forward? Are we going to continue to go in this direction? What's further this way? What does the Democratic Party do to combat this?
I feel like that's one of the things that we brought up. We brought up in, I think, the last time we got together. I think I was talking to Michael, that in many ways, and I'm just going to kind of lay out some of my anxiety, Elliot. I felt that in 2016, basically Donald Trump was an aberration, and that it was the Republican Party. He won the nomination. He was there basically for a certain group of people who were angry at coastal elites to basically show up, and he was the lodestar for that anger, and that basically through some fluke he won the election. And we went through his presidency. From my perspective, I don't think that it was a very successful presidency, and I think that it brought a lot of division in the country. And I think that in many ways, I don't think that our country looked good while he was at the head of it was at the helm. But what gets me now, and I'm wondering if anybody else feels this way, it's that he has won this election, and then in many ways, it's kind of legitimized what to me seemed like an aberration. Anybody have any thoughts on
Oh,
it?
absolutely. I mean, that's exactly what's happened. I mean, now that he didn't get as many votes as last time, but the thing is, the Democratic candidate, Kamala Harris, didn't get anywhere near as many votes as Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden. So, I just wonder where is this love that we hear, that we're supposed to hear so much about? Where is this love for people? And the contortions that people can go to say that the criminal justice system that's put a number of people, a lot of them of color, in prison in the same way, with the same processes as they use for President Trump. I see people bending themselves into pretzels, trying to say how this is different, and it wasn't done right when President Trump has been indicted, that he's somehow, again, the oppressed billionaire.
But when did that become the majority?
Well, I mean, it's the majority of a party. I mean,
that's where I'm lost at. Like, the popular vote, like, when did this truly become the majority? When did we, as Americans, the majority of Americans, decide that this is who we are? That this is who stands for us, this is who speaks for us, this is who I'm looking up to, this is who I need to tell my kids to respect and recognize as the president. When did we get to this?
1776, girl. They always been this. It's always been this. It has always been this. It has always been this. It was, seriously, we are really, really, my mother went to segregated schools. Okay? We are not that far from civil rights. We are not that far from lynching. Okay? We are not that far from Jim Crow.
But I just think Obama and Romney,
Yeah, I think America loves a celebrity. We all like a popular guy, right? That's different from liking black people. And what we saw was, we like Obama, but we don't like black people like that. You know what I mean? It's one thing, seriously, it's one thing to have a friend who's black. It's another thing to have a black family on TV every single day in your face, the way they talked about Michelle Obama, the way they talked about his clothes, the way they talked about his qualifications, the way they talked about Kamala, the way they talk about, and the way they talk about black women in general, period.
I mean, here
right?
in Clay, we had somebody called him, saying she looked like a gorilla or something.
I guess for me, I'm used to it. I wasn't surprised in 2016, and I'm not surprised now. And maybe it's because of my unique experience of being a 24-year-old attorney in West Virginia trying to be in that profession, and because I'm constantly dealing with how people view me, I know how people view me, And so I'm sorry, it's heartbreaking. It's racism. People not liking you for no reason at all.
But do you think Bunmi, do you think that the outcome of this election and the fact that Kamala Harris didn't connect with the electorate is mostly racist, or is there another reason?
I think it's like a combination.
I think there's a lot of things as well. I think it's a combination of things. I think her race and sex are definitely a part of it, and I think we have to have that conversation. But go ahead. Mm-hmm.
I think that they play hand in hand. Of course, I acknowledge the color of her skin. That makes me proud. But at the same time, I entirely respect her decision and her choice to not run on the fact that, hey, I'm a black woman. Because we need to get to the time as a society where that doesn't have to be but it is. And let's acknowledge it for what it is. I'm proud of her. I want to see that. I would like to see that, and I hope I do see that.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but do you think that the nation was ready?
No, and I still don't think we are. And again, that's what I'm talking about moving on in the future for the Democratic Party. Does that mean that we're just going to have to stick with traditional white men? Are we going to have to do one step at a time? Is Obama as far as we can get? It's a lot of things that play
start to think outside the box.
in hand. The fact that she's a woman, there are some women who don't even think that women are suitable leaders. And why do we still think that?
Hey, thanks for listening to this. We who've been working on the Us and Them project for the past decade believe that division and polarization in America is the issue of our times. We're here to wrap our arms and our minds around this challenge. In a splintered world, we believe that listening is one of the last bridges we have towards understanding.